The legend of Timothy's untold story was so dark that if any children were told about it by mishap, they would get nightmares and scream out at night.
What made you go to such tragic lengths to do what you did? None of my brothers or sisters of the E2 class ever did this. Tell me, Timothy, what caused you to kill yourself? Tell me!
But what was worst of all was the way I was treated by the old controller. Throughout 1914, before the outbreak of World War I, I was treated badly by the people who did not know how to drive us engines properly. But that was because the controller assigned them to do that, to make them look like professional crew members. I never had any accidents while this happened, but I was so angry and embarrassed that I rapidly lost my pride and faith in who I was, and I went into a deep depression. Around early 1914, I was scolded and looked down by the old controller. The fact was that he never really understood how to run a railway and was only into money and greed. He later told me that after I was to take a night passenger train, I was going to be withdrawn and later sold for scrap. Mainly due to my parts being so old and overused a lot, and not getting enough repairs done correctly. As I neared the station on my journey, my driver applied the brakes. But they failed and I sped up, going faster and faster. I refused to listen to my driver's pleas to stop, and after I got turned onto the wrong track and saw I was heading towards a cliff, I gave in to my hatred and pain and shouted out my last words, cursing and falling to my death, taking every soul with me.
You hear the screeching of an owl, you hear the wind begin to howl. You know there's zombies on the ground, and it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again, and you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time. You hear the beating of your heart, you know the scream is gonna start. Here comes the really scary part, and it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again, and you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time. All the trees begin to moan, and the monsters grunt and groan. Rotting faces full of slime. Don't you know it's terror time? And it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again, and you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time. All the trees begin to moan, and the monsters grunt and groan, rotting faces full of slime. Don't you know it's terror time? You hear the screeching of an owl, you hear the wind begin to howl. You know there's zombies on the prowl, and it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again, and you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time. You hear the beating of your heart, you know the screaming's gonna start. Here comes the really scary part, 'cause it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again. Oh, you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time. All the trees begin to moan, and the monsters grunt and groan, rotting faces full of slime. Don't you know it's terror time? And it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. Yes, it's terror time again. And it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again. And you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time.
And your death came at the hands of Thomas the Tank Engine.
But it wouldn't just be young people suffering. Many would suffer trauma in their own way, both human and biofused.
Have you seen Thomas?
No, sorry.
Move out of my way.
I'm starting to worry. What if he went into Shed 17?
He's probably at the docks with Cranky.
Harold, I need someone to help with a case.
All safety, but we thought the risk was worth it.
Fueling Harold was a nervous experience. Would he have the same reaction Mavis had?
We all breathed a sigh of relief and loaded the engine. Then it all went wrong.
Harold's engine had worked fine, but what no one realized was most of Harold's lower extremities were permanently fused to his propeller system. As Harold's rotor blades began to spin, vital organs would be drawn into the motor and tear him apart.
Criticism: Annie and Clarabelle, the first two biofused coaches, were put into service straight away.
Everyone was very excited. No one seemed to ask about where all the organic parts were in a coach. Or about those luxurious, expensive pink leather furnishings. I don't even want to tell you what they found in the toilets.
This is all your fault. You'll never laugh at me again. The rights of biofused engines will be ignored no more.
Diesel would form the Sodar Liberation Front. His dream was to make Sodar Island a home for engines and other transport, free from the tyranny of human beings.
And we will not stop until the island of Sodor is recognized as a refuge for all engines.
Meanwhile, the remains of the engines would be disposed of.
The remains at Hit Logistics would be moved on.
Cranky had been driven mad by all the things he'd seen working for the government. But the worst thing was having to keep it quiet for all those years.
Unfortunately, Cranky's genetic structure meant he couldn't turn around fully, not without breaking the entire circulatory system to his head. Effectively, he was condemning himself to a painful death.
I believe Cranky knew the consequences, and he knew it had to be done.
But his wouldn't be the only sacrifice that day.
I don't believe he was evil, or that he wanted to kill anyone. He just wanted to show the world what the government was trying to cover up. He didn't know what was in there, or the damage he'd do.
Diesel had veered into the now secured stasis container of Project G Stage 1. Opening it up and allowing the deprogrammed biofused matter to assimilate any matter it wished, and to take on any form it wished.
Lads, I looked at the mirror. I looked at the mirror, lads. Lads! Any biofused engines in there didn't stand a chance. They were dragged into the canister. And then we all got to see it in its natural state.
The reality of the situation sunk in, government forces were deployed. This would be the only line of defence. But Project G1 was more than capable of defending itself and would take whatever action was necessary.
Take cover! Percy Thrower!
Gordon's alive!
It could now not be stopped. As it forged ahead, it became clear where its goal was. More biofused cells, more life, more engines. It had to assimilate cells to grow, to live, to spread. Blue Mountain Quarry. The site of thousands of tons of dead, desiccated biofused matter, hidden from the outside world. A rich source of matter which would make Project G1 indestructible.
It were drawn here to be with its own kind, the last vestiges of Sodar's engines. It was trying to find peace.
Realising Project G1's destination and intent, the military provided it with what it was looking for. The last engine whose fate everyone had asked about for years. After 28 operations to try and reconstruct him as a human being, he had remained behind closed doors, unwilling, until now, to show the world the monster he had become.
That wasn't the Thomas I knew. That wasn't an engine or a human. It were a creature, mutilated by surgeons and engineers alike.
Unable to react to the outside world at this stage, Thomas was the last chance the military had to stop Project G1.
Finally, the nightmare were over. Thomas had found the remains of his friends. His friends had found him. Sodar Island's favourite sons would finally be at peace.
The mystery of the Blue Mountain had been solved. 6,000 tons of desiccated, dehumanized biofused matter, hidden in full view. And now used as a weapon.
This was the military's plan all along. There was never any intention to allow them some kind of peace. And with that, Thomas lost his only link to the past. Now all that's left is his reanimated, pneumatic body, a confused mind that lost everything. With his past the only thing left to torment him, Thomas decided to leave. He'd seen everything. The last people he trusted had abandoned him, but I was still here to tell his story. After all the betrayal, disloyalty and torment, I could still say I were his only friend, the only person who hadn't abandoned him. I could hold my head up high and say I was
And don't worry, Mr. Hartley. You're among friends here. This is where everyone ends up once they've become troublesome.
Sorry if I could miss you. It's been a few months since we last talked. I don't know if you miss me. I've been stuck in my head every day. I can't get out cause I don't know what to say. Remember that you lied. You went out and lied to my face and made me feel denied. Don't know what I did, but it was my fault. That's what you said. That's what you said. Leave.